She didn't just find me. She didn't just sneak around at night like some wannabe HOA spy. No, she ended it all by flooring her 3,000-pound SUV straight through my wrought iron gate. The sound of steel exploding, neighbors screaming, my own heart slamming in my chest. I'll never forget that moment. And the best part, my little camera caught every single frame of it. That was the day the queen of our HOA finally destroyed herself. The first time I ever heard her name, she had already hit me with a fine. Picture this. I'd been living in Oak Leaf Grove for 6 peaceful years. My gate was solid matte black iron, tough enough to survive storms, hurricanes, even one drunk teenager on a scooter. Not once had anyone complained. Then one morning, taped right to my gate, there it was, a crisp envelope stamped with the HOA logo. I opened it and had to laugh. Gate paint not in compliance with community aesthetic standards. $75 fine issued. The ink was barely dry, and so was Karen. She had just moved in. I mean, literally moved into Lot 14 less than 12 hours earlier. And somehow she was already HOA president. Our old president had retired. No one else wanted the job, so she waltzed into the seat unopposed. Armed with a binder labeled Community Excellence Protocols, she convinced the half-asleep board members that she had a vision. A vision of hell, apparently. I hadn't even seen her face yet, and already I was on her hit list. Within 48 hours, 3 other neighbors got slapped too. Greg for hedge trimming, Linda for her sun-faded mailbox, another guy for his garage door being open too long. We laughed at first, thought maybe she was overeager. That laugh didn't last long. The very next morning, there she was strutting around at 6:45 a.m. in a neon vest, camera dangling from her neck like a sniper rifle. She crouched behind bushes, zoomed in on house numbers, scribbled notes in a little black book. She wasn't even subtle. Someone tried waving, she wagged her finger like a schoolteacher. Another asked what she was doing. Her reply cold and sharp. Somebody has to hold people accountable. That was my introduction. When I finally crossed paths with her, she was literally crouched in front of my mailbox, measuring the edge of my grass with a tape measure. I tried to be polite. "Morning," I said. She dusted off her khakis, squinted like I was a criminal, and told me I was lucky it was only a $75 fine. Non-compliance could lead to a lien. Over gate paint. I pointed out that the bylaws said nothing about color, but she held up a laminated paper like it was the Constitution. New standards as of yesterday. Black is no longer compliant. Charcoal gray is acceptable. Pending texture. Pending texture. That was my welcome to the Karen era. In a single week, the vibe shifted from suburban calm to something like a dictatorship. She wore a laminated compliance officer badge like she was mall security on a power trip. She issued violation digests, stapled them to our doors like grocery flyers. Except instead of sales, it was public shaming Greg's trash cans visible from street civic eyesore. Linda's wreath out of season decor community discord. It felt like we were trapped in a reality show, Survivor Suburbia, hosted by Karen. The tipping point for me was when she cited me again for my garden frog. A harmless little metal statue, a gift from my late aunt. She called it visually disruptive to neighborhood tranquility. That frog had sat there for years. Karen had been in power 3 weeks. I started ignoring her, but the fines piled up. At a block party, she marched in wearing that vest, waving a clipboard, and told us to disperse. "Unsanctioned gathering," she barked. Someone muttered, "This ain't the Pentagon, Karen." But she wasn't joking. She was building her empire of rules. And for a while I felt powerless. She had the clipboard, the bylaws twisted around her finger, and nobody else wanted the fight. I started to think, maybe I should just sell, leave it all behind. Was I the stubborn one? Was repainting a gate worth all this grief? Late one night, staring at another pink violation slip duct taped to my fence, I almost convinced myself she'd won. But that was the night I installed a camera. Just a small, almost invisible gate cam wired to my porch light. I told no one except Greg across the street. He gave me a grin and whispered, "Welcome to the resistance." At first I thought it'd just be for peace of mind. Then I checked the footage. Around 4:30 a.m., Almost every night someone paced in front of my gate, hood up, vest off, all black clothes. When I zoomed in, my stomach dropped. It was Karen, standing there silent, just staring at my property for minutes before walking away. And that was only the beginning. Soon my cement driveway extension was vandalized with bleach streaks. Greg's solar lights vanished. Dee's roses shriveled overnight. When I dug deeper into the footage there, she was Karen pouring liquid onto my concrete, yanking down Greg's wind chime, pocketing a garden gnome like a raccoon with a vendetta. I compiled everything into what we jokingly called Karen's Midnight Mischief. Greg added dramatic music. Dee added subtitles like Operation Shrivel the Roses. We showed a few trusted neighbors. Their faces told me everything: shock, disgust, anger. "She stole my ceramic squirrel last month," one said. I thought I was losing my mind. Armed with proof, we called an emergency HOA meeting. Karen tried to block it, but the bylaws allowed homeowners to gather. That night, with the projector humming, we pressed play. On the screen, Karen hoodie on creeping, pouring, stealing. The gasps around the room were real. She jumped up, shrieked it was all fake. "Deep fakes," she yelled. Someone in the back called out, "Pretty amazing AI that memorized your license plate." Laughter spread. For the first time, the fear was gone. People weren't intimidated anymore. They pitied her. And in that shift, I felt something click. This wasn't me against her anymore. It was all of us together. From that moment, the tide turned. We pulled out the original HOA charter, dug up rules that proved any bylaw change required notarized signatures and a quorum meeting. We organized cookouts disguised as education sessions. Flyers went up, doors were knocked, stories shared. Karen was unraveling. She patrolled with a megaphone, called us traitors to aesthetic order, left anonymous notes quoting random bylaws. But it didn't matter. We set a date for a recall vote. And when that night came, the clubhouse was packed. Someone even brought a popcorn machine. Karen stormed in late, dragging her cousin-in-law, the self-appointed deputy compliance officer. She slammed her folder on the table. "This meeting is out of order," she declared. Greg coolly replied, "Actually, Section 4.2 says otherwise." We played the video again. The votes were cast. 42 in favor of removal, only 3 against. Karen's face twisted as she shouted, "I am the HOA," and Greg, without missing a beat, said, "Not anymore." She stormed out that night, spitting threats, tires squealing as she peeled off. And for 3 days, we didn't see her. The air felt calm again, almost too calm. Day 4, late afternoon, her black SUV rolled back in like a shark circling. I was in my garage, sanding a side table, when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I peeked out. She was parked dead center in front of my house, engine idling, just staring straight ahead. I walked down the driveway, slowly, wary. "Can I help you?" I asked. No answer. I turned to leave, and that's when I heard it, the rev of her engine. Low, deliberate, angry. I spun just in time to see her eyes narrow. Then boom! She floored it. Metal screeched hinges snapped, my iron gate exploded inward like spaghetti. One half landed 6 feet into my lawn. I dove aside as her bumper skidded to a stop halfway into my driveway, crunched into my brand new concrete slab. Silence except for the echo of my pounding heart. Greg across the street dropped his hose. "Did she just ram your gate?" he yelled. I couldn't even answer. Karen stepped out, pointed at me, and screamed, "You blocked community access. This is what happens when you ignore the rules." Her voice cracked with rage. Neighbors swarmed out of their homes, phones out recording. Dee already had 911 on the line. Karen panicked, scrambled back into her SUV, but her bumper was tangled in twisted metal. Tires screeched. The car groaned, but she wasn't going anywhere. When the police arrived, half the neighborhood stood in a semicircle watching. An officer knocked on her window. She rolled it down an inch and muttered, "I was provoked." The officer frowned. "Ma'am, you plowed through a residential gate." Her excuse. It was a symbol of disorder. It offended the integrity of the neighborhood. People chuckled in disbelief. My camera had it all, the rev, the crash, her screaming. I handed over the footage like it was a holy relic. They cuffed her right there in front of everyone. That was the last day Karen ruled anything. Charges piled up: property damage, reckless endangerment, trespassing. Her insurance refused to cover intentional acts, so she was stuck with the bills. The HOA, now free, banned her permanently from leadership. She lost her home, sold it at a loss, and left with her reputation shredded. The empire she built on fines and fear crumbled under the weight of her own rage. And me, I just stood there, staring at the wreckage of my gate, breathing in the quiet. Not victory, not celebration, just relief. The spell was broken. Karen had destroyed herself. And if there's one lesson I walked away with, it's this. When power is built on fear and control, it always collapses under the weight of its own madness.